and I could no longer just use Percocet. And Oxycontin's really expensive, so I couldn't like buy it on the street, and I quickly moved to heroin.
Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone out there that wants to be a guest on the show, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can go to our website, oplshow.com, or just send us an email directly at oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, guys, and quick plug of the party game that Joe and I came out with. It's called Pay the Price. If you haven't checked it out, perfect for game nights, holidays, just, kind of playing and having a good time with friends and family. It's a trivia party game, and you can check it out at paythepricegame.com. Also, if you want to become a member of our Patreon community, you'll get weekly bonus episodes, and you get to help support the show, and you can head over to patreon.com/OPL show. So, with all of that out of the way, today we're going to be talking to a woman about a topic that we've honestly wanted to cover on the show for a long time. We're going to be speaking about drug addiction and going through this guest's journey of becoming an addict of meth and heroin, kind of hitting rock bottom, becoming homeless, and then being able to turn her life around and use her experiences for a really great cause. So we've got the guest on the line today, and first of all, just want to say thank you for taking the time out to chat with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think to kick this off, I think it'll be interesting to hear, I guess, in your journey, a lot of us have experience using drugs, maybe recreationally or trying. And I guess to kind of kick this journey off, because I know there's a lot to cover, what was the moment for you, I guess, the interaction with drugs where it went from recreational to something, something more, something that ended up becoming an addiction?
That's a really good question. So I used marijuana recreationally for a long time, for many years, and also alcohol for a long time. And then I got introduced to opiates, and opiates was a completely different demon, I guess you could say. I used it occasionally with friends for a while, and I'm not sure when the switch happened. I started using Percocet, and then due to some unfortunate circumstances, I got my hands on some Oxycontin. And once I started taking Oxycontin, my tolerance got high, and I could no longer just use Percocet. And Oxycontin's really expensive, so I couldn't like buy it on the street, and I quickly moved to heroin. And that's
Wow.
when it pretty much went downhill from there quickly.
So around what age did you start using heroin?
Let's see. I started using heroin at 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 19 years old. I'd started using opiates at 17 and then was introduced to heroin, I believe 19.
Were you doing this like sort of just on your own and hiding it from people, or did you have like a group of people that you were kind of doing this with?
So I was using opiates with some friends of mine, and at the time I was dating a heroin addict. So I was introduced to heroin through him, and then it just kind of became our secret, and it was something that we just did together.
I guess in your own words, what was the draw, at that age and sort of the feeling? Because was there, correct me if I'm wrong, but, were you excited to use it? Like, oh, I've always wanted to try heroin. I feel like from people I've spoke to or addicts, it's not the case. And there's, we all kind of grow up understanding the stereotype of, well, you shouldn't do heroin, or that's really where things could start to go downhill. But then people find themselves in that situation where they try it and stick with it. And was that the case for you where, at a young age, you sort of knew, well, this might be dangerous to try, but you kind of did it anyway, and then it just became, I guess, a feeling that you needed again? Or can you just kind of go into that a little?
Yeah, of course. So I have addiction heavily in my family, and I have family members who are addicted to heroin. So I knew the dangers of it. I thought that I was more powerful than it. So I remember the first time I did heroin, I thought to myself, I'm only going to do it this once and it's going to be fine. And, it's not going to become a problem for me. And I did heroin once and I was off and running. Like I ended up buying heroin like 4 times that day, and I spent like hundreds of dollars within the first couple of days. I think already at that point, I guess for lack of a better term, the addict switch was already turned on from the previous opiate use. So I was already powerless at that point. Like as soon as heroin entered my system, there was no turning back. But I went in there knowing that there could be consequences, but also not really caring. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. And also, how long were you using it for before you, sort of came to this reality of like, I really need to stop doing this, or you became aware of the fact that like I've completely lost control here?
That happened really quickly for me. So I it happened quickly, but it didn't stop me. So I had been using heroin for probably a couple of months, and I was hiding it from my family. And I had a bunch of money saved up, so I wasn't like into criminal activity at that point. But I remember the feeling of like, I need to have it in order to function. Like at that point, I had to use it in order to not go through withdrawals. And it took over quickly. So probably like 2 months into it, I recognized like I'm not going to be able to stop on my own, but I'm also not ready to stop yet. So I recognized that it was a problem. I just wasn't willing to do anything with it yet at that point. And it took, I, if I compare myself to other addicts, I wasn't in active addiction for that long. I was only in active addiction for about a year and a half, well, with heroin at least. And so a couple of months into it, I recognized like this is a problem, but it took about over another year in order for me to actually do anything about it.
So what exactly, like, I'm assuming like, and also like during that year, like you said, you had some money saved up, so you were just buying it. How much were you spending on heroin in a month?
Oh, in a month? Oh God. Well, okay, so that's hard to answer because it varied. And also I mentioned earlier that there was this boyfriend involved. So I was a little bit more stable than he was, so I was pretty much buying for both of us most of the time. But and on any given day, I would say in the beginning it was maybe a couple $100s a day, and then towards the end it was maybe $80 a day.
Wow. Are you just blowing through any savings at that point, or are you?
Yes.
Yeah. And are you working? Are you functioning? Are you going to school? Or does this kind of end up taking over your life completely?
So when I first started using heroin, I had a job and I was getting ready to go off to university. Um, I went to university using heroin and went for a semester and then dropped out. I didn't attend any classes. I pretty much just stayed in my dorm room getting high all day. Um, so I dropped out. I had a job, but like I'm not I'm not like a functioning addict. So I would call in sick, I would leave early, I would show up late. Um, that job maybe lasted a month or so, and then later on in my addiction I had another job, and I started stealing from coworkers
Mm.
and got fired, which was really rough. But I'm not functioning. Like when I'm using, my entire life is taken over by using.
Wow. And then, so you did mention before that you had money saved up, so there wasn't any criminal activity yet, you said before, and now you just alluded to kind of stealing from coworkers. I guess, at what point did this kind of hit its peak of I guess, did you end up kind of stealing, or were there criminal activities involved for you to continue using? And at what point does meth come into the picture?
Yeah, so um, I can't. It's really blurry for me, honestly. Like the timeline of most of my using career, let's say, is blurry because I was getting high, right? So my memory is pretty faint. Um, but when I did engage in criminal activity, like I unfortunately I stole from my family a lot because they were just easy targets, you know, they were there. So it probably started with like taking some money out of my parents' wallets, you know, and then it progressed to like pawning some of their belongings. Um, this mostly happened after I got back from university. Um, Things got really bad after I got back, and I started using meth at the university also, shortly before I came back home. Um, and again, I was introduced to meth through that same boyfriend.
Wow.
So, during this time, I mean, going through all this, and you said it took about like a year and change
Mm.
for you to kind of like realize that there's, a problem, and or when you actually like did something about it. What exactly did you do? What kind of steps? And like leading up to that, when did you like? Was there something that happened that forced you to be like, okay, enough is enough, or is it just kind of just the time?
Yeah, so I tried to get sober a lot in that year and a half. I tried many different avenues. So I tried I don't know your guys' knowledge of addiction or of opiate use, but there's a medication called Suboxone
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
that you can take to that's supposed to help like minimize cravings, and it's also supposed to help prevent you from getting high. So I tried that for a while and that didn't work. I tried like a outpatient program and that didn't seem to help. Um, I went to rehab, I went to detoxes, and that didn't seem to help either. Um, I wanted to get sober, but it didn't really stick for me. Um, what kind of I think forced it to stick was essentially like hitting my rock bottom. So my parents are like they're such wonderful people. And they did a really good job handling me as best as they could when I was in that state. But they kicked me out a couple of times for using and stealing. And so I've had different bouts of homelessness. And right before I got sober was like my longest bout of homelessness, where I was homeless for about 6 months. And I'm from Washington State, so I was homeless from like August to December, and um, it like rains all the time here, and it's cold during those times, and I was homeless, like sleeping on the street, homeless, and like stealing from people. Like I don't know if I want to say this because I don't know if it'll be like incriminating, but I was stealing from people um, and their belongings and like businesses to survive. Like I was stealing food to survive, and like I would go weeks without showering because I would have nowhere to shower. Um, and honestly, like what led me to getting sober was it was coming up on Christmas time, and I'd spent Thanksgiving away from my family, which was really hard, and I wanted to spend Christmas with my family. I mean, that's truly what it was. I wanted to spend Christmas with my family. And it was getting close to that time, so I reached out to them and asked them if I could go to detox and spend Christmas with them. Uh, and I did. It's a long story, but basically, I ended up being able to spend Christmas with my family. And then later that evening, I went to treatment in California.
Wow. Can I ask, at that 6 months that you're homeless, how old are you?
21.
Wow, that's it. How self-aware are you when you're kind of in that state where, you're a 21-year-old, you had spent some time at university. I mean, is at that point, is taking drugs just so that you don't have to face your own reality? Or I guess my question is just, we live in New York City and we pass a lot of people, especially recently after COVID, that are homeless. And I've noticed what seems like an uptick in even younger people, just kind of sleeping on the street. And, you just can't help but wonder what led this person here or what their story may be. And for you, just 21 years old, is it just, what is that self-awareness? Are you just actively trying to get out of that, or is it just you're just completely consumed by how to get the next meal, money, and just take more meth or heroin?
I think a little bit of both. I think most of the time I'm just consumed, and of course using drugs like changes your state of being. So you're very much in survival mode where it's like, how do I eat? How do I get cigarettes? How do I get money? How do I get drugs? And that's pretty much your main focus. But when all of those needs were met, I would have these moments of like, I wonder what my family's doing, or, I wish I could be back at home with them. And it's hard. I was homeless in the area of where my family was. So there have been times where I'm, walking past my house and I'm, homeless and, in withdrawal and I'm looking for money, and having
Wow.
that kind of in your face all the time is hard. But it's hard to be self-aware when you're in that state because you are in so much of just survival mode where it's like, how do I just get through this day?
Mm-hmm.
And because you're high, you lose track of time, so there would be times where like it would just fly by, and you'd be like, oh, I guess, I've been homeless 2 months now and it feels like a week. It's just your I was totally consumed.
Wow. And it's just it sounds so simple for you to say, I just want to be with my family for Christmas, but at the same time, it's simple, but it's so powerful. And, I know for me, that specifically, being home with family for Christmas, Joe, I know you're the same, being super close to your family. It's simple. It's something we take for granted, but it is just one of the most powerful things, I think, in people's lives who have that and can appreciate and are grateful, because not everyone is obviously able to have that with family. So that's just, I don't know, it just gave me chills when you said that for some reason, because it just sounds so simple. Like, oh, like I'm homeless right now, stealing from people and businesses, but I just really want to be home with my family for Christmas. And for that to be enough, because it is just such a powerful experience and thing to have, to be able to pull you to that next step, is pretty amazing to hear.
Also, I wanted to ask, because you said like during that year you made several attempts at getting clean.
Mm-hmm.
Was the thought of having Christmas with your family like the time that made it stick, or like what was like the reasoning behind like this being the final time that I'm gonna like really get clean this time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think, actually, I know that I didn't go to treatment with the intention of staying sober. Um, I don't think I went in with the intention of not staying sober either. It was just, I mean, this is going to sound kind of dumb, but it was something that just happened. Like they put me on a plane to California to a treatment center, and there was just something different that time. Like I think that I was truly just done. I I was scared to be homeless again. And I think it helped that I was in a different state where I didn't know anyone and I was away from boyfriend who I used with the whole time, and I was away from the people and the environment. But I really didn't go into treatment thinking like I'm gonna stay sober forever now. It was something
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of happened. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it's honestly in a way refreshing to hear, because this isn't a movie. This isn't, maybe there's not always this giant epiphany or this thing that happened. It's just maybe holding on to hope and continuing to try. Like I read a stat before we jumped on the call. I don't know how accurate it is, But it said on average, I think it'll take people 5 times trying to go through recovery before it possibly sticks. And, right there, it just shows, you might try 3 times, you might try 4 times, and then maybe that person just completely gives up on themselves because it hasn't stuck. But then that 5th time, it just happens. And it seems like for you, I almost want to say thank you for not dressing that up to be something more glamorous. It's you tried again, and it stuck, luckily. But that is a culmination of, I guess, all your efforts in the past and just not fully giving up on yourself to just keep trying to get help. And then it's amazing to hear that it finally did stick.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've known women who have been to treatment 20 times, and they're still fighting to get it to stick.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know people who have gone to treatment once and it stuck, so I don't really know like what the special ingredients are.
Yeah.
I just know that, if you keep trying, you can be successful.
How long have you been sober?
I have, as of yesterday, 4 years and 9 months.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
4 years, 9 months.
Hmm.
And just hard to imagine. I mean, I know people can't see you right now, but we have you up on the screen, so we see you. And it's just always incredible, like to hear that story where you came from. I'm looking at you right now in, I don't know if it's your home. It looks nice. There's a nice shelf, decorations. You look great. Like I cannot imagine you in the scenario that you just described, on the street, going through withdrawals. Like that alone is just amazing. And I guess, shows how much progress you've made. So yeah, congratulations on 4+ years and all the rest of the years to come.
Thank you so much. It's a big deal. Every day is a big deal,
No, absolutely. And what, I guess, now knowing that you've gone through recovery and you're still sober for all these years, what type of life changes did you make? And kind of where are you now?
Yeah, so lots of life changes. They say like you have to change everything. And so when I went to treatment in California, that's where I stayed. So I currently live in California. So I had to, move 1,000 miles away from everything I knew and essentially build a new life. So after treatment, I went into sober living where I stayed for a year and a half. And I've just kind of slowly rebuilt my life back. I got a job in treatment pretty early into my recovery. And I continue to work in treatment. So I'm a drug and alcohol counselor at a treatment facility in California where I get to help other women, hopefully find recovery, which is extremely rewarding. I'm a homeowner now, so I own a home out there as well. And I have 2 dogs and a wonderful boyfriend that's also in recovery, so I really had to like start from scratch. I went to California with a backpack and a suitcase. And I participate in a 12-step program, which I've kind of been reluctant to talk about just because I don't want to feel like preachy. Some people really get turned off by 12-step programs, and there are other ways to get sober. This is just how I got sober. So I have a sponsor. I continue to go to meetings. I continue to be of service to other people, and I've just rebuilt my life. I had to let go of a lot of toxic people that held me back and kind of just build a new community that helped me grow.
I mean, it is truly incredible to sit here and just, hearing about your journey and going from homeless to homeowner is like, that's astronomical to me. I mean, there's people who are never homeless or deal with any sort of, hardships, like even close to being homeless and having, an addiction. So, to be able to be 4 years, 9 months sober and then own a home completely, start a new life. Like it's truly amazing to hear that. And I know that it's very important for people who are listening to the show that may be going through something similar or know someone who's going through something similar. Like this could be like a beacon of hope. And I also think that it's very admirable that you would take the time, to dedicate your life basically to helping people and showing them that, you know, you were in this place and now this is where you are and this is what people like, this is what is possible, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the reason why you got into it? It was just like, I need to make sure I'm doing my part in like giving hope to these people that may be in a bad place.
It's interesting. I had kind of made the decision that I wanted to be a counselor like years and years ago. And it was when I had first started using opiates. And I think there was a part of me that recognized like there's something not right with you, with me, there's something wrong here. And I wanted to understand it better. So I started to like research addiction, and I like got this drive to want to help other people that were suffering, because I think I knew deep down that I was suffering.
Wow.
So once I got sober, it felt like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do now. And I went to school, I became certified. Um, and I've been working at the same facility for almost 3 years now. And I mean, it's really hard work. It can be very emotionally taxing working with addiction. And sometimes it's like I've had clients die, and it's hard to face that reality. But it brings me so much purpose. It's so rewarding being able to like see the light in people's eyes come back, and it's
Hmm.
just, it fills my life with purpose. It sounds cheesy, but it's true.
It absolutely does not sound cheesy after everything that you just told us and the fact that you are living proof that it is possible. Like Joe said, there's nothing cheesy about that. A lot of people use cliches and want to preach and help people, or whatever. There's a whole culture of that, of people who haven't really done anything for themselves that want to preach and help others and use that to whatever, be their business, make money. But no, like, you have gone through this, lived through it, have done the work on yourself, and continue to, and are now able to help people. So that's awesome. And I do want to, I just want to discuss a few things before we wrap up, because I think this topic is really important, because it's like 6 degrees of separation at its finest. Like, so many of us know or are not far removed from someone who suffers from addiction, or we've lost friends, loved ones. I think it is prevalent in a lot of people's lives in some way. And I know it's just something that's so hard for people to communicate about or wrap their heads around, because there's so many emotions involved. Like, people want to have empathy for addicts, but then there's anger, like, don't they know what they're doing? It's self-sabotage, or you're hurting your family members. And it's easy for a lot of people to just think like addiction is just not having willpower or a weakness, versus a real disease, or, like you said, genetic in your family. Like, can you just kind of, I guess, give your definition of addiction or an addict, just so people can kind of wrap their heads around what this is as a disease?
Yeah, sure. So I giggle because I hear that a lot. Like, just be stronger, have more willpower, get more discipline, and if only it were that easy, right? Like, mothers don't leave their children behind because they're weak, it's because they're sick. And I see that a lot. From what I know, addiction lives in like the primitive part of our brain, so it becomes instinctual, it becomes survival. Like, it becomes more important than food and water and sleep. It becomes more important than connection to family, because it just activates this primitive part of our brain, and it's hard once you've turned that on to turn it back off. I would be lying if I told you that, like, I don't go a day without thinking of using, which
Hmm.
sounds insane, because it is insane, right? That there's an insanity to it. Um, Not a day goes by and I've built this beautiful life, and there's still that part of my brain that's like, that kind of sounds like a good idea,
Hmm.
And that's why why some people fail after, so I don't want to say fail, that's why some people relapse after so much time sober. I've seen people relapse after decades, and it's because that disease never goes away, it stays there. That once that light switch is on, you can't turn it back off. You can just kind of take it a day at a time and not use no matter what. But it's something that stays with us, and it's not something that's wrong with our personality. It's not that we're weak-minded or not disciplined. It's something that actually lives within our brain, and it's going to sound crazy, but it's very much like, for me, that there's two separate people living inside of my head,
Right.
where there's the addiction, there's the disease that tells me, you know, maybe it would be a good idea to get high today, and then there's like the recovery part of me that's like, okay, but we're not going to do that. Those kinds of battles go in my head every day. I just choose to feed the recovery part of me instead of kind of surrendering to the disease.
Hmm.
Is that helpful?
No, yeah, and that's not something that I, like is, I've definitely heard that before, where people are saying, it's not like you get sober for a year and then it's completely gone. It's something that you have to wake up and actively, you know, fight against every single day,
Hmm.
and it makes it all the more, impressive. Being sober as long as you have, and it's great. And I think that, like I said, I think it's just very admirable that you can go from a very dark place and then come out of that on top, own a home, and then also be dedicating your lives to helping people who may be going through a similar thing. There's a lot of people who wouldn't do stuff like that, and it's inspirational in any sort of field, not with just addiction, just anything really. Like being one of these people who walks this earth, that is like a beacon of hope and like motivation, and just showing what is possible to be going from through something like being homeless, to where you are now. It's inspirational just across the board, not just with people who may be dealing with addiction. So I think that this episode would be very important, to kind of get out there, and for all these people to sort of hear, and not it be this very, like we were saying before, like very dramatic and like a movie sort of, like it's just a
Right.
very real take on the whole situation.
Yeah, I think that is important to note. Just the ability to communicate this as just truthful and genuine from obviously your experience. We understand that you're not speaking for everyone or every addict, but we thank you for that. A lot of people, like Joe said, can abuse a platform in a sense, but I think you have just given us your journey truthfully. I think that's helpful for a lot of people on both sides of the spectrum. Anyone who is battling addiction that's listening to this, as well as people who know someone who is battling addiction, because that's a whole other type of battle. I know for family members and friends and things like that, and it just can't hurt to shed light on kind of a full circle journey like yours, with the note that it doesn't just disappear, and that you are still essentially in this battle every day and for the rest of your life. But it's, just shines a light and some awareness on what that's like day to day. And just like Joe said, that it is possible for someone to recover and go on to do amazing things. And, no one should be counted out. I think that's important.
Yeah, it having walked through the darkness makes the light that much brighter. Knowing, like, there are still, I've only been a homeowner a couple of months, but there are still times I walk into my house and I'm like, it brings me to tears how full of gratitude I am, because I used to sleep on concrete and now I have a home. you know it really does make like day to day that much sweeter. Like I get to go to work and enjoy what I do, when before my days were filled with you know drugs and shitty people.
Yeah.
It it does. I feel like I experience a lot more gratitude than I did even before drugs came into my life.
Absolutely. I think that's a great note to leave off on. And it's, addiction or not, that's just something I think a lot of us need a reminder of. And it's hard to forget how much worse things could be for you, or it's easy to lose sight of, anyone's own journey. Again, not just talking about addiction, but, being able to acquire a home or lifestyle. And, it's so easy to just want more and more and more and forget to take the time to have that gratitude and say, wow, look at what I've got, or look how far I've came. So yeah, we really appreciate this. That was amazing. I think, thank you for just sharing that story. Obviously going back to some of those dark places, but it's super helpful, and we're really happy that we're able to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.
Every time I travel to a place where I don't know the language, I just end up speaking in broken English and feeling super embarrassed about not knowing even basic phrases. But thankfully, that has changed recently thanks to Babbel, which is the #1 selling language learning app. And Babbel is awesome because it actually teaches you language skills that you can use in the real world, from menus to greetings to directions. Plus, their lessons are 15 minutes long, which is perfect for on the go and quick consumption. And their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be successful. You can choose from 14 different languages, from Spanish to French to Italian and German, and you can get started today. And we have a special offer for you guys. When you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you get an additional 3 months for free. So that's 6 months for the price of 3. Awesome deal. Just go to Babbel.com, use the promo code OPL. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com, code OPL. Get started on that today. If you guys don't know, Joe and I created our own adult party game. It's called Pay the Price, and it's a trivia game that requires both brains and bravery. So basically, players take turn answering trivia questions, but if you get a trivia question wrong, then you can still get points by pulling a consequence card and completing the funny, embarrassing, awkward, or just straight up crazy challenge on that consequence card. So basically, you don't have to be great at trivia to win. You just have to be brave enough to complete the consequences if you get the questions wrong. And we launched this about a month ago, 2 months ago, and people have been loving it. They've been having game nights, connecting with their friends, families, creating some unforgettable moments. So we really want you guys to check it out and create some of those memories for yourself. You can head over to paythepricegame.com, and OPL listeners, there is a special code for you. You can enter OPL at checkout, and you can get 15% off your copy of the game. We ship to the US, Canada, and internationally. So check that out at paythepricegame.com and use code OPL at checkout.
Well, I just want to say that I think that this episode will probably be one of the more important episodes that we ever put out on this podcast, because of what you were saying before, like the 6 degrees of separation. Like, it's way less than 6 degrees, but I'd say like maximum 2. Everyone knows someone who's dealing with some sort of addiction, or has a friend, or maybe you personally are dealing with addiction. And I have very close like relatives and people in my life that have dealt with addiction as well. And it's a very hard thing, man. It's kind of one of those things that is, I guess, not talked about enough. And like it's hard on everyone. It's hard on the people that have to watch their relative or whoever sort of deal with it. And then you want to get mad and you want to get angry, but you also want to help, but then you feel like you're enabling. Like, it's just like this whole big, sort of thing. So to talk to someone who really, dealt with it on an extreme level, where you got addicted to heroin and then you're homeless, you have nowhere to go, and you're walking past your childhood home, like it's terrible. And then being able to pull yourself out of that and now own a home and give back and help people that are dealing with the same sort of thing, it's like that is like wildly inspirational, mm-hmm. Like for anyone that's dealing with addiction especially, but for just anyone, any sort of person who has any sort of like hardships or anything in life, like it's never too late to kind of do that. Like, that seems like an impossible thing to do for a random homeless person that you see on the street, to be like, this person's going to own a home in 4 years. Like, you'd probably
Right.
put the house. You would bet, bet the bank that they fucking wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Isn't that crazy
So,
to think from your perspective? You're walking past her on the street, and it's like, yeah, you would just think, well, that life is over, or
that's that.
that got tarnished. There's, that's not going to end well. And if you had to bet your money on whatever the circumstances would be, we would probably all pick the worst possible outcome.
Right.
But that's crazy. Like the same people, well, now she lives in California, but the same people could then walk past this person going to their job, going to their home, whatever it may be, and never even realize that that was the same person who they passed on the street years ago. And
Right.
like you said, any type of hardship, whatever it may be, it's just a reminder that, things don't get solved or fixed right away. It's not always the first time. I mean, that's just a good lesson for anything that you're putting effort into, not even just climbing out of a hole, but, wanting to aspire to more, wanting to build something, whatever it may be, just not giving up and continuing to try and not give up on yourself is just so important in so many aspects. And it's just so cool that it stuck for her. And it was, really intense when you think of that imagery that she discussed. Like you said, walking past her childhood home, just this kind of nagging of, well, I feel like I should be with my family for Christmas, because you can't forget she's so young. She's not that far removed from just being a teenager at home. You know what I mean? She's 21 and homeless. And then, to be able for that and her family and that kind of want to be together to be the thing to, I guess, pull her back to eventually go through recovery and have it stick. Just powerful to hear.
I do want to say, because this popped into my mind, it doesn't really have to do with addiction or anything, but it was interesting to hear her say that was the driving point behind getting sober. And it just, the thought in my mind it just like occurred to me that it was just even more validation of, just spending time with your family is one of the greatest things on earth. And then we take a lot of that for granted, spending time with your family or, people who mean something to you. And we cloud a lot of our day worrying about things that don't necessarily matter. This is someone who is dealing with addiction, going through withdrawals, and they're homeless. And, I mean, they got a whole fucking phone book full of problems here. And all they want is to just spend time with their family. Like, that's what's going to make them happy. That's what's going to take them out of this dark place, just spending time with their family. And that just kind of, just resonated with me. Because like I said, I think that a lot of people, they cloud their days and their lives with all these things that don't really matter, when the things that matter are actually very easy to attain. And one of them is just spending time with your family and not taking those kind of things for granted. So I thought it was super interesting for her to be like, that's all I wanted. And I knew what I had to do it. Like, I'm going to go through detox just so I could spend time with my family. Like, that was great to hear, honestly.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And I totally get what you're saying and agree. And I think that's the cool thing. And I think why this is powerful is it's just the lessons pulled from this are not at all specific to her circumstances or even anyone going through addiction. Just as simple as, like we said to her at the end, leaving this conversation and remembering to just look around and be thankful for, what you have and what you've accomplished so far, because I'm sure, I'm this way, you're this way. It's our driving force and we always want more, and it's grow and new things. But the negative aspect of that is, you forget to take the time to be present sometimes and, congratulate yourself on the things that you've done or accomplished, whether they're small or large, before trying to attain more and more. And, that's really cool. And it's awesome that she still has those moments in her life, that she walks into her home still and is just like, wow, I did this. This means something. And, we should all do that in our own lives as much as possible.
Yeah. And for anyone out there that may be dealing with sort of, any sort of addiction or anything, it's, obviously never too late to get some help, either for yourself or asking other people for help. I think you'd be surprised in who would help you. So definitely, use this woman's story as sort of inspiration or motivation to get clean. And for anyone else out there that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can go to our website, oplshow.com, or send us an email at oplpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, be sure to follow us on Instagram at OPL Podcast. And if you want to become a patron and get those weekly bonus episodes and help support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/OPL show. You'll also be part of our Helping Other People initiative, where each month we donate some money to a charity or kind of create a charitable venture. We've helped out previous guests and things like that. So you'll be part of that conversation of deciding how to spend the money each month. So check that out at patreon.com/OPL show. And that is all.
That's all. See you guys next time.